Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class.
Want a drink? Yes, please. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahangsa Privrajacharya Statarasata Shri Śrīmad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Harinama Sankirtana Ki Jai. New Raman Reti Dhamma Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktarinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasang Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So today we're reading from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, Description of the Kingdom of God, text number 25. Correct. Yachcha vrajantya nimishang rishabhanuvritya Yachcha vrajantya nimishang rishabhanuvritya Dure yamahuparinah sprihaniya shilaha Dure yamahuparinah sprihaniya shilaha Bhartur mitak suyashasha katana anuragaha Bhartur mitak suyashasah katananuraga Vaiklavya bashpa kalaya pulaki kritangaha Vaiklavya bashpa kalaya pulaki kritangaha Yacha vrajantya nimisham rishabhanuvritya Dure yamahuparinah sprihaniya shilaha Bhartur mita suyashasa katunanuragaha Vaiklavya bashpa kalaya pulaki kritangaha Yachcha vrajantya nimisham rishabhanuvritya Dure yamahuparinah sprihaniya shila Bhartur mitak suyashasha katunanaraga Vaiklavya bashpakulaya pulaki kritangaha Yachcha vrajantya nimisham rishabhanuvritya Dure yamahuparinah sprihaniya shilaha Bhartur mitak suyashasa katananuraga Vaiklavya bashpakalaya pulaki kritangaha Yachcha vrajantya namishan pratirpanuvritya Dure yamahuparinah sprihaniya shilaha Bhartur mitak suyashasa katananuraga Vaiklavya bashpakulaya pulaki kritangaha Yachcha vrajantya nimisham rishabhanuvritya Dure yamahuparinah sprihaniya shila Bhartur mitak suyashasa katunanuraga Vaiklavya Bhashpakulaya Pulaki Kritangaha. Word meanings. Yat, Vaikunta, Cha, and, Vrajanti, go, Animisham, of the demigods, Rishabha, chief, Anuvritya, following in the footsteps, Dure, keeping at a distance, Yamaha, regulative principles, He, certainly, Upari, above, Naha, us, Sprihaniya, to be desired, Shilaha, good qualities, Parthuhu, of the Supreme Lord, Mithaha, for one another, Suyashaha, Suyashasaha, glories, Katana, by discussions, discourses, Anuraga, attraction, Vaiklavya, ecstasy, Bhashpakalaya, tears in the eyes, Pulaki Krita, shivering, Angaha, bodies. Translation. Persons whose bodily features change in ecstasy and who breathe heavily and perspire due to hearing the glories of the Lord are promoted to the kingdom of God, even though they do not care for meditation and other austerities. The kingdom of God is above the material universes, and it is desired by Brahma and other demigods. Please repeat. Persons whose bodily, even though they do not care for meditation and other austerities. Other demigods. They perspire due to hearing the glories of the Lord, are promoted to the kingdom of God, even though they do not care for meditation and other austerities. The kingdom of God is above the material universes, and it is desired by Brahma and other demigods. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It is clearly stated herein that the kingdom of God is above the material universes. Just as there are many hundreds of thousands of higher planets above this earth, so there are many millions and billions of spiritual planets belonging to the spiritual sky. Brahmaji states herein that the spiritual kingdom is above the kingdom of the demigods. One can enter the kingdom of the Supreme Lord only when one is highly developed in desirable qualities. All good qualities develop in the person of a devotee. It is stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 5th canto, 18th chapter, verse 12, that anyone who is Krishna conscious is endowed with all the good qualities of the demigods. In the material world, the qualities of the demigods are highly appreciated, just as, even in our experience, the qualities of a gentleman are more highly appreciated than the qualities of a man in ignorance or in a lower condition of life. The qualities of the demigods in the higher planets are far superior to the qualities of the inhabitants of this earth. Brahmaji confirms herewith that only persons who have developed the desirable qualities can enter into the kingdom of God. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the devotees' desirable qualities are described to be 26 in number. They are stated as follows. He is very kind. He does not quarrel with anyone. He accepts Krishna consciousness as the highest goal of life. He is equal to everyone. No one can find fault in his character. He is magnanimous, mild, and always clean, internally and externally. He does not profess to possess anything in this material world. He is a benefactor to all living entities. He is peaceful and is a soul completely surrendered to Krishna. He has no material desire to fulfill. He is meek and humble, always steady, and has conquered the sensual activities. He does not eat more than required to maintain body and soul together. He is never mad after material identity. He is respectful to all others and does not demand respect for himself. He is very grave, very compassionate, and very friendly. He is poetic. He is expert in all activities, and he is silent in nonsense. Similarly, in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 3rd Canto, 25th chapter, verse 21, the qualifications of a saintly person are mentioned. It is said there that a saintly person eligible to enter the kingdom of God is very tolerant and very kind to all living entities. He is not partial. He is kind both to human beings and to animals. He is not such a fool that he will kill a goat Narayana to feed a human Narayana, or Daridra Narayana. He is very kind to all living entities. Therefore, he has no enemy. He is very peaceful. These are the qualities of persons who are eligible to enter into the kingdom of God. That such a person gradually becomes liberated and enters the kingdom of God is confirmed in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 5th Canto, 5th chapter, verse 2. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 2nd Canto, 3rd chapter, verse 24 also states that if a person does not cry or exhibit bodily changes after chanting the holy name of God without offense, it is to be understood that he is hard-hearted and that therefore his heart does not change even after he chants the holy name of God, Hare Krishna. These bodily changes can take place due to ecstasy when we offenselessly chant the holy names of God, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I've been instructed to stop the purport in the middle here, and then tomorrow we'll continue about the 10 offenses. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Miditang Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitang Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So let me offer my respectful obeisances to all the devotees here. It's my privilege and good fortune to be able to discuss the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam with you, the best of all books. Before getting into the purport, let's just take a moment to see where we're at in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the bigger picture. I've been attending these lectures by the Russian sannyasi, Bhaktivedanta Swami, and he mentioned that, I think it was Sri Vallabhacharya who said that there are we have to understand the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in 7 modes or 7 ways. We have to understand the whole book, we have to understand each canto, we have to understand each of the topics, we have to understand each chapter, we have to understand each verse, we have to understand each word, and we have to understand each syllable. Srila Prabhupada used to say when we're distributing books that if someone understands one line or even one word or one syllable, their life can be changed. So in this chapter entitled The Description of the Kingdom of God, the demigods have become distressed because these demons, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, are taking birth in the womb of Diti, and the whole universe is becoming disturbed by this and darkened by this. So they pray to Lord Brahma, like, what's going on? And please, how can you help us and everything? And Lord Brahma begins to tell the story of how the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha, Jai and Vijay, were cursed to take birth. And in the course of telling that story, about how the four Kumaras came to the gates of the kingdom of God, he first gives a description of the Vaikuntha world, this beautiful description. And this verse 25, is I think the last of the end of that sort of description of the spiritual world. And now he's saying that only people who have these qualities of pure devotees can actually enter into the spiritual world. So somehow or another, every time I give a class, it seems like the last 3 or 4 times, I was in Vrindavan, Panchagoda was there, I was giving a class. It was about not criticizing devotees, but it was also about how the devotees have to develop these good qualities. To be actually accepted as real devotees, we should see these qualities develop in them. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was giving Chaitanya Charitamrita class, and it was the same. It was about the essential importance of chanting the holy name, but it was also Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that devotees have to develop these qualities. As Srila Prabhupada says here, even in our material experience, people respect the qualities of a gentleman more than a low-class fellow. And the qualities of the demigods are very attractive and sought after by the people in general. And if we want to, Prabhupada, we heard this morning, I think Prangovinda was reading about Prabhupada's mission, that it's to save the whole world. Even the very audacious mission, we shouldn't, if it's true, we should say it. We shouldn't worry that what other people think, that you can't do that. So to save the whole world, if people see these qualities develop in the devotees, if they see devotees are these godlike personalities who have these wonderful qualities, these 26 qualities of a pure devotee, then people will be attracted to this movement. They'll be, how do you get that way? What do you do that makes you so happy and so peaceful and so kind to everyone, so steady and equal to everyone, and so tolerant? Because when you're a preacher, it said that people don't want to necessarily take this spiritual knowledge. So sometimes even Lord Nityananda was attacked by Jagai and Madhai, speaking of those 2 gatekeepers, and even Jesus Christ and Haridas Thakur and other preachers of the holy name sometimes are attacked. But the one has to be tolerant. Titikshava karunika suhrita sarvadehinam. This Prabhupada was mentioning some of these verses from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And also he was mentioning the ecstatic symptoms or changes that take place in the body of pure devotees, that when they chant the holy name or when they hear Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or chant in front of the deities, their body shivers and tears come to their eyes and their voice falters, and these various changes take place. In the 2nd canto, 3rd chapter, Prabhupada mentions, there's a verse that if one chants the holy name and these transformations of your body don't happen, it must be because your heart is steel framed. You have a stone heart. So Bhakti Siddhanta points out that it's important not to imitate these ecstatic symptoms. Apparently, I have no personal experience, but I've heard that among the so-called followers of Lord Chaitanya, there's a tendency of people to imitate these symptoms, and sometimes they try to cultivate their material feelings. One joke was that a person was hearing some Krishna Katha, and he was hearing about Radha, and he thought of his goat named Radha, and he started crying or something. One time I heard Agnidev was talking about how that one time they organized in Mayapur a kirtan contest. They had different kirtan groups, and Agnidev had his group, and Achyutananda was the judge, and all the different kirtan groups from all around Mayapur, different parts of Bengal, were coming and performing, and it was like common within these groups that they would chant Hare Krishna, very nice, and then after a while the kirtan leader would become stunned and he would start rolling on the ground and then Achyutananda would go but But apparently this is outside of our movement, the different followers, so-called followers of Lord Chaitanya, they try to cultivate these symptoms of ecstasy. And Bhaktisiddhanta says that this is not the way to attain actual, genuine ecstatic symptoms. The fake ecstatic symptoms won't help them, and they may mistake their material emotions for transcendental bhava, and we should avoid that. So we have to develop these qualities. We should see that we're developing these qualities. At least to be a gentleman, Prabhupada expected all of his disciples to be perfect ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes we focus on some of the different aspects of renunciation and regulative principles so much that sometimes we may forget to also be nice to people, be kind to each other. These are natural qualities that develop automatically in the hearts of devotees, because devotees see the spirit soul, Pandita Samadarshana, right? They see in everyone's body that there's a super soul, and that every living entity is a part and parcel of Krishna. What's the verse from the chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita? Yena bhutani yasheshani drakshashyatman yatomai. When you've heard the truth from the Spirit, right? Tadvidhi pranipatena, you learn about these different sacrifices from a pure devotee, from a spiritual master who's seen the truth. And then when you've seen the truth, you're never again in any illusion, because you see that all living entities are but part of Krishna. They belong to Krishna. They're His. And therefore, if you're a devotee of Krishna, and then how can you be unkind to any of His sons and daughters? Of course, they may expect kindness on the material platform, but real kindness is to encourage them in devotional service, which is the ultimate good fortune, and the only real good fortune. So, therefore, devotees are described as paropakar. They're the highest welfare workers, because they see what the good fortune is for living entities, and they're dedicated to it. Suhridak sarvadehinam. They're actually the kind friends of all living entities, because they're trying to distribute and help their spiritual master distribute this transcendental knowledge, which is the essential good fortune that everyone needs, without which they won't have good qualities. That's Srila Prabhupada is mentioning this verse from the 5th canto. He mentions 2 verses from the 5th canto. One is from Lord Rishabhadev's instructions, but the other is from the residents of Kimpura Shravarsha that are offering prayers. And they say that yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvayar gunas tatra samasute suraha, that the devotees have all the good qualities of the demigods. And then it goes on to say, harava bhaktasu tasya kutoma hadgunan manoratena asata davatobahi. Manorata is the chariot of the mind. So by the chariot of the mind, manoratena, they will be carried into sense gratification and degrading activities, which will won't be able to display these good qualities. So he's saying, how can a non-devotee have any good qualities? Actually, Prabhupada quotes that verse a lot, so we should understand it. I mentioned the last time I was giving class here that I was on the Harinam in front of the Sether Gate at Berkeley, and there was a homeless man, and he was a Christian, and he was attacking us. And in the course of discussing with him, I said, well, Jesus said, by their fruits you know them. And then he turned on me and he said, well, I see your fruits, you Hare Krishnas, you don't take care of your children, you don't treat your wives nicely. I was very shocked that he knew about us, and embarrassed me. I felt a little defeated, actually, because some homeless man, I thought he wouldn't know these things. But we should develop these qualities, and we should treat everyone nice, and people should see that we have an ideal society of pure devotees who actually have all these good qualities. But we can't artificially develop them. We will develop them naturally. Of course, we should pay attention that we are developing, but we will develop them naturally by chanting Hare Krishna without offense and doing these other practices of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakta, bhakti, and also ragatmasika sadhana bhakti, the two divisions of devotional service and practice, that we do the prescribed duties like waking early, dressing the deities, wearing tilak, going on Sankirtan, and discussing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Discussing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is so nice, and this is so nice, this description of the Vaikuntha planets that Lord Brahma is giving. It sounds so wonderful, what the qualities are like in the spiritual world where everyone is a pure devotee and they have all these qualities that are better than the demigods are aspiring for these qualities. So these 26 qualities are discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita. They're mentioned in the Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami. It's actually in the 11th canto, chapter 11, verses 29 through 32. Krishna discusses to Uddhava. He gives a list of these qualities. Actually, the way our Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is written, it actually lists 28 of the qualities. Some of the qualities are expressed a little differently. Sometimes they're put together, more than one are put together in one quality. Some of these qualities, these 26 qualities, are among the 64 qualities of Krishna that are described in Nectar of Devotion. They're also among the early qualities, which the jivas, the pure jivas, also have the qualities of Krishna up to a certain point. And then Lord Shiva has some different additional qualities. Lord Vishnu has some additional qualities, but only Krishna has all 64. And there's also qualities of Radharani that are described in scriptures. These 26 qualities are also there in those descriptions. So, rather than go through each quality, I would mention that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati stresses that exclusive surrender to Krishna is the most important of these qualities, and that from that all the other qualities will develop. So our whole process of devotional service is to bring us to this point where we can actually understand Krishna as the ultimate Bhagavan, the ultimate feature of the absolute truth, the ultimate principle of everything. And, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mang prapadyate vasudevak sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. We can completely surrender and take shelter of him, knowing him to be the absolute truth and to be everything. Vasudeva sarvam, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading, all-knowing personality of Godhead, is really everything. He's the basis of everything, and everything that emanates from him is non-different from him. And we don't have to be afraid that we'll be missing out on anything if we completely dedicate ourselves to him. Narada Muni says that even if one gives up one's material duties to completely surrender to Krishna, even if one falls down due to immaturity and he hasn't lost anything, but if he does all his duties properly but doesn't get attraction for Krishna, then what has he gained? So this is the vision of Narada Muni is promoting this Nivriti Marg, this path of renunciation and complete surrender to Krishna. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam also describes the path of those surrendered, obedient servants of Krishna, like the demigods who are charged with doing things correctly in the material world. Not that we should give up our material duties prematurely and then fail, but Narada Muni is saying that even if you do that, it's so great that even if you fail, you won't lose anything. But we should actually perform our duties. Last time I gave class, Madhumati was asking me about sama, one of these 26 qualities, samatvam, this equipoise, and she was asking about steadiness. And that's a fact that in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, there's a description of in the renunciation, in the three modes of material nature, that someone who renounces his duties, because they're troublesome and difficult, is renouncing in the mode of ignorance. And someone who performs the duties in order to get name and fame and wealth and position in society is in the mode of passion, but that one who performs the duties just because they ought to be done and purifies his existence in that way is performing duties in the mode of goodness, which Lord Krishna is glorifying, that we should aspire for doing everything in that mode. And of course, to pure devotional service is beyond the three modes, and the pure devotees, they're very steady. They don't renounce their duties for the wrong reasons. Like people become sadhus because it's troublesome to maintain their family, and then they go and smoke pot and have girlfriends or whatever. That's not real renunciation. That's like monkey renunciation. So these transcendental qualities are also discussed in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna describes, last time I read some of those qualities of Krishna's describing that one should always think of him, engage their full intelligence in him, become completely absorbed in his service. But if you can't do that, you can practice regulative principles to become attracted. And if you can't do that, and he describes so forth and so on, even to the point of meditating on something impersonal. And then he describes the qualities of his pure devotees that are attractive to him. Hare Krishna. And those qualities are also there, that the pure devotees are, they never unnecessarily put anyone into difficulty. They're tolerant in happiness and distress, fame and infamy. They remain steady. They're not elated when they get something good and dejected when they don't get something good, and siddho, perfection or failure. All these different qualities are there, and how they're devoted to Krishna. That's the essential quality. And they're attracted to living in a holy place. There's different qualities described. Mita bhuk, they don't eat more than necessary. So let's have some discussion. We have 20 minutes or so. And Panchagoda has something.
So it seems that all the demigods are in charge of all the different senses, the mind, intelligence, and all these kind of things. So how does it that where do we initiate that surrender, or that respect and all the good qualities which are mentioned for the devotees? If you're really not independent or able to do anything without the adidayvika forces, that when you want to speak something, you want to mentally say, think of something or perform any kind of activity, it seems like you need to have almost like permission from the higher forces to do so. And then a side issue, like Daksha, when he felt disrespected by Lord Shiva, he got angry, but he was such an exalted personality. Or even Balaram was disrespected by Ramaharshan Sutta, and he exhibited some anger towards that. Could you talk a little bit about those things?
Okay, that's two things. I guess in the third canto, there's a description of the development of the universal form, and that this is described somewhat. In fact, I was describing it before Ragatmika was asking me about it in chapter 10 of the second canto, that there's the adidayvik, adhyatmic, and adibautic. So with each sense appearing in the universal form, the sense object and also the controlling demigod is there. There's this. Sometimes the material philosophers, they talk about phenomenology, this understanding that what we're perceiving is just because of our senses, like Kant talked about a categorical imperative. We get this word noumenal. Prabhupada uses the word noumenal. We get it from Kant, and then it's used in different ways by Hegel and Schopenhauer. They disagree with each other. But the idea that we have senses, we're beings with senses, and we don't see the things as they really are. What we see is what people with our kinds of senses see. And in this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, this phenomenological insight is developed even further, that there's these three features. There's the thing in the world, the object of our perception, there's our faculty for perception, and there's also the representative of God. Ultimately, it's God, the super soul, personality of Godhead, who facilitates and allows that to happen. So in the Vedas, there's recommended that we worship these different demigods, but in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it points out in the second canto that regardless of what we have all material desires or no material desires, or we desire liberation, that all classes of people should just very strongly worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead and automatically satisfy all the demigods. And Srila Prabhupada points that out, that by watering the root of the tree, all the leaves and branches are fulfilled. By eating food in the right way, providing the nourishment to our stomach, then it gets distributed to our body. So the Vaishnavas don't have to pay attention to all these Vedic rituals for all the different demigods, because they will automatically be satisfied and our senses will become purified if we just chant Hare Krishna properly. So that was the first part of the question, if I understood the question. And then the second one was, remind me again.
I was offended when she didn't stand up, and he's such an insulting personality, he said that we should not be offended or expect any kind of...
Yeah, that's one of the qualities, is we should be amanina and manadena. Of course, when Lord Balaram displays these qualities like anger, it's all, whatever the Lord does, if Lord Balaram becomes intoxicated, like he sometimes does, drinking Varuni, whatever he does is all wonderful. So the suttas are, within the Vedic society, there's a scientific organization of the different varnas and how they marry. And there's anuloma and pratiloma marriages, and the suttas are mixed caste, and it was entrusted to them to describe the Puranas and these corollary Vedic literatures, the Smriti, Vedic Smriti. And so Ramaharshan had been asked by the sages of Namarasharanya to speak, and these great brahmanas, exalted sages, had blessed him that he would have long life and so forth. But when Lord Balaram came into their presence, he thought that because he was sitting on the Vyasasan, he didn't have to stand up and welcome Lord Balaram, because the person sitting on the Vyasasan is supposed to be representative of God and given the respect of God. So this was a great mistake, and Lord Balaram pointed it out, actually he even pointed out that Ramaharshan was from a mixed caste, and he was lower, and anyway, he picked up a piece of grass and just touched him with a piece of grass and killed him like that. But then the Brahmins were disturbed, because they said, well, we had granted him a long life, so now you've undone our blessing. So Lord Balaram said, well, okay, I can bring him back to life. And they said, no, whatever you do is wonderful, so we don't want you to undo what you've done, but even though you've killed him, we want you to give him a long life anyway. So that seems like a contradiction, but Supreme Lord can reconcile all contradictions. So he said, well, here is his son, Ramaharshan Sutta, and it said that the Father lives through the Son. So Sutta Goswami will speak about Bhagavatam and will have a long life, and therefore we can do that. But so there's sometimes when the pure devotees or the personality of Godhead may exhibit these qualities, where do the qualities come from? They come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they're transcendental emotions in the spiritual world. They don't have the material modes of nature affecting them at all. Just like the love of the gopis appears to people like, it's lust and even forbidden that they're leaving their husbands to go to Krishna. But because it's associated with Krishna and because it's transcendental, it doesn't have any of the abominable qualities that it would if in a material relationship. So these qualities like anger and lust and greed, when they're displayed by transcendental personalities in connection with Krishna, they're not these low material qualities, they're actually transcendental qualities. Is that okay? Someone else?
Thank you for that wonderful class. You're describing the qualities of the devotee, and I was thinking, okay, well, not this, not that, whatever. You know, my mind was like, these are such difficult qualities to acquire. So I thought about, Krishna says, I preserve what you have, and you carry what you lack. So I was wondering, how does that verse apply for us to developing the qualities, or what does that mean? Does it mean that at the time of death, don't worry, he will, carry what you lack? Or could you give your thoughts?
In chapter 9, Krishna is describing first the Mahatmas, who are pure devotees, and they always worship him and glorify his holy name and so forth. Satatan kirtayanto mam. And before that, he describes the demons, who they or those who are influenced by demonic nature. They deride Krishna when he appears in the human form. They think of him as just an ordinary human being. They don't understand his higher transcendental nature. And then he describes others who, like impersonalists, people who worship the universal form, the one without a second. They try to approach the absolute truth in these other ways, but they're not the Mahatmas. And he's describing all these, that he's the healing herb, he's the chant, he's the butter, the fire, he withholds the rain and so forth. And then he describes how those who follow the three Vedas with the aspiration to go to the heavenly planets, they go there if they do everything right, and they enjoy heavenly delight, vast enjoyment for a long time, but when their stock of material piety goes up, they have to fall down again. And then the very next verse he says, but those who worship me constantly, steadily, for those, then they have my yoga kshema, my merciful protection, which for the Prabhupada translates as he carries what they lack, and he preserves what they have. So this is like the verse in the second chapter where he says that there's no loss or diminution in this process, that ordinary material pious activities may bestow some kind of good quality or blessing or good fortune on you, but it's temporary because it's a material thing. But anything done in devotional service is eternal. There's in the Brahma Samhita, there's a purport where Bhaktisiddhanta is explaining that even in the course of mixed devotional service, like some devotees, they perform devotional service, but they're expecting some material benefit. They're karma mishra bhaktas. And some of them then become attracted then to spiritual knowledge, like we're hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and we're attracted and stuff. So they may be jnana mishra bhaktas. But the ultimate thing is just the pure love that people can get. But I went off on a tangent there, but where was I? Retaining what we have and preserving what we have and retaining what we lack. So what we do so Bhaktisiddhanta says that even in that mixed devotional service, there's a little bit of pure devotional service in there. Even in that mixed devotional service. And any pure devotional service is actually eternal, and it's never taken away. So that if we, for example, in the 6th chapter, Arjuna asks about the fate of the yoga brashta, the unsuccessful yogi. He says, well, he's given up everything material, but then if he doesn't succeed in his yoga practice, then hasn't he lost everything? He's like a riven cloud, he doesn't have anything in either sphere. And Krishna says, no, whatever, one who's as good is never overcome by evil, whatever success he made will always be preserved. And he describes how these yogis, then take birth again in a Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe, or in a family of yogis, and that after many births and they're automatically attracted to devotional service, or automatically attracted to the principles of yoga, and they become yogis in their next life, until after many births, they become completely perfect and they completely surrender to Krishna. And then at the end of the chapter, he says that a yogi is better than a jnani, or better than a karmi, and he says that the greatest yogi is the pure devotee. So this devotional service, there's no loss or diminution, and I think, Pundarik, were you raising your hand? Or? Okay.
If you're done with that?
Yeah, I guess so. Did it satisfy your question, or I hope I didn't go, no, not really? Well, let me say this one thing before, Pundarik. I was at a japa retreat one time, and Giriraj Swami was telling us that Prabhupada was speaking, and he told the devotees that unless you're 100% pure, you can't enter the spiritual world. Like this is saying, Lord Brahma is saying here. And then the devotees all looked very morose, 100% pure. And then Prabhupada said, well, 75% you're pure. And the devotees still felt bad. I don't remember the exact story, but finally Srila Prabhupada said, don't worry, I have the key to the back door and I'll get you in.
So on Sunday, Lakshmanath Prabhu was asking about Sutta, because you were talking about Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami was given long duration of life, and that was Balaram came there. That was maybe during the Battle of Kurukshetra. After the Battle of Kurukshetra, Parikshit Maharaj took birth. He heard Shukadeva Goswami speak Bhagavatam, and then after that, Sutta Goswami was speaking Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam to the sages of Naimisharanya. So it seems like the time sequence is not understandable.
In Dwapara Yuga, people used to live for 1,000 years. And Sutta Goswami was given a long life. So actually, Parikshit Maharaj heard Sukadeva Goswami speak, and then Vyasadeva, who was there, wrote this whole Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. If you look at the first verse, or the first verse of the second chapter also, Vyasa Uvacha. Vyasadeva wrote this Bhagavatam in the way we have it in these. There's a description of, and he writes about his own, how he was dejected, and then Narada Muni spoke to him, and then he meditated. There's 4 important verses where he sees the personality of Godhead and his different energies, including his external energy, which stays outside, and he sees how the miseries of material entities are superfluous to them, but they can be directly mitigated by this linking process of devotional service. So that was all composed by Vyasadeva. But yes, Balaram was, in the Battle of Kurukshetra, Balaram decided to remain neutral. Krishna remained neutral by saying, I'll give my army to one side, or part of my army to one side, and I'll be on the other side. But not as a combat person. I won't fight. And of course that was crucial, because he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, without which Arjuna may not have been encouraged to actually fight the battle. Balaram went on pilgrimage to holy places, including to Naimisharanya, where the sages had already begun their 1,000-year sacrifice. But it was a 1,000-year sacrifice to counteract the effects. They could see that Kali Yuga was coming. So exactly when Ramaharshan was killed and his son was installed, and then exactly when he spoke after Shukadeva Goswami, there was enough time for all that. We tend to be analytical. We've been trained in this idea of history, that we want to know what came first and what came next, and what caused what. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam isn't really composed exactly in that way. It's wanting to get to the essence. So Srila Prabhupada points out that some of the discussions take place on other planets or even in other universes. And although the Goswamis do give us some understanding of the chronology of the different days of Brahma and the different manus. It's even there in the Bhagavatam, the manus and things. But to get exactly, when did Balaram kill Ramaharshan, and then when did Sutta Goswami hear from Shukadev, because he was present when Parikshit Maharaj was talking to Shukadev. And then the Bhagavatam itself, it was first taught to Shukadev by Vyasadeva already. He had already taught it. So when did he compose it? Well, after hearing from Narada Muni, did he compose that before he spoke to Shukadev? And that was before Shukadev spoke to... remember, Vyasadeva knows past, present, and future. So he could know that Shukadev Goswami was going to speak to Parikshit Maharaj and explain it all. But the exact timeline and the details, I can't give you exactly, but I don't think it's that important. Maybe some Vaishnava Acharya has commented on it. Yeah, the important thing is that we have this Bhagavatam in this form. It was composed by Vyasadeva, it was taught to Shukadev. Shukadev then spoke to Parikshit Maharaj. Sutta Goswami heard it, and he related about it to the sages at Naimisharanya, and the exact, what date, in what year, and maybe some astrologers know exactly how the planets were when it happened, and they can figure out exactly what time. But that's probably less important for our understanding than to get the understanding of this. I think it's 9 o'clock, unless there's anything else. Jai Hare Krishna, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki Jai, Lord Brahma ki Jai.